Welcome to Off Script with Dan Dwyer on Robin Hood Radio, featuring in-depth interviews with guests from the world of theater and allied arts. Underwriting support from Johnny Cake Books in Salisbury, Connecticut, whose collection of rare, collectible, and out-of-print books is housed in a 19th century cottage in one of the most old-fashioned small towns in New England. And now, here's the host of Off Script, Dan Dwyer.
Thank you, Marshall. As I said in our last program, we've been talking, sometimes we talk to authors, mostly of books of local interest, and today I'm continuing a second part interview with Allison Drew. Allison is the daughter of Tom Drew, the 91-year-old man who was a resident of Salisbury and went missing the night of July 21st, 2007, from his home while under the care of a at-home caretaker, right up on the Massachusetts border. His body has never been found, and his disappearance has never been solved. The book's called Searching for My Missing Father, an American Noir, and it's really a harrowing tale of an unsolved mystery, as much as it is a really vivid portrait of someone who's left behind by the unsolved disappearance of someone they love. So welcome back, Allison. Let's pick up. Over the years after your father disappeared, and still, the Connecticut State Police have never closed the investigation. Little pieces of information would come your way, some of which, as you said in the last interview, contradicted or amplified things that had happened contemporaneously surrounding the time of your father's disappearance. When you went to the Connecticut police and alerted them to these discrepancies or new information, how did they react?
Well, that would be the second summer. I mean, the first summer I had ongoing conversations with the detective.
The summer of 2007, yeah.
Yes. And then the second summer in 2008, two further witnesses came forward, and they also said that they had heard that something was amiss or that he was missing, but whatever happened, it took place in the afternoon, in the early afternoon. So the first detective, still involved with the case, did check the phone lines of their phone records for the key day of the two second witnesses, and the fourth witness. There were three witnesses, 3 and 4, who came together. She said that she had received a distress call on her cell phone. She wasn't at home, she recollected. But when the police checked her phone records, there were no cell phone calls that day, so she was discounted. However, when I checked the two landline records of the third witness, I saw that he had received 2 landline calls from the fourth witness that followed the possible distress calls from my father's house. I think they came in maybe about early, just past 2, and then a bit later, closer to 3, something like that. But they followed the outgoing calls from my father's house. And I begged the police many times to check the woman's landline records as well as her cell phone records, just to verify, possibly confirm. But they refused, because she said they were she got the calls on her cell phone record, therefore that's all they were going to check. And I'm many times, every year, in fact, I wrote letters of complaints to various states officials saying that, this has to be followed up, but nothing happened.
You almost become an activist for the survivors of people who go missing. And my question is, if in the face of an investigation by the state police, wherein you as a principal have a direct are directly affected. What recourse do you have in at least the state of Connecticut, and I'm sure it varies to different states, to redress inadequacies of law enforcement authorities? I mean, is there an ombudsman? Is there an attorney general? Where does one go, sort of, as to exercise, as it were, consumer rights when it comes to
Well,
police investigations that affect you?
well, I think in practice we're very limited, and I do want to just make the point that the police did have some good points. Firstly, they were very prompt. Secondly, I thought the physical search of the land all around the house was very, very, very thorough. I'm convinced that that we can basically, as far as I'm concerned, we can rule out the possibility that he's above ground there.
So
And then,
if your father had been in the vicinity, he would have been found by now.
absolutely, they used all sorts of equipment. They used low-flying airplanes. They used helicopters. Heat-seeking technology. So they did try, especially the first year, and they continued to video from a plane, over a number of years to see if there could be any trace seen. But I feel that they were poor on actually investigating, on challenging what they were told by the two employees. Um, so I did write to my congressman, state's attorney, and local elected officials, and they tend to they often would say these are good suggestions, and they would refer it back to the state police. Mm-hmm. So there was not really a proper ombudsman, so to speak. And then the more you complain about the state police, the more you become the culprit. And this is what I experience. And it's really, it's frightening and distressing.
So if you became the culprit, how did they display their, if not disinterest, but let's say they having a less favorable opinion to your input to the case than what you suggest would be a more favorable attention to what they had been told by prospective witnesses?
You mean what happened to make me think that I was?
Yeah.
Well, I had my sister and I had we had put the house on the market for us as a summer rental because it was expensive to maintain, and we rented the house. Subsequently, we didn't get any takers, but the realtor who was renting it, who was handling the account, offered to rent it herself. It was a 4-bedroom house, so we agreed, and we had a lease which gave us the right to come. We rented it at a very economical rate, and my sister and I each had the right to come and visit and stay in our bedrooms. And then the realtor stopped paying rent and wouldn't take my calls, and I really panicked and went back. At which point the realtor called the police, and the police, rather than looking at my lease, well, the junior trooper looked at the lease and saw, that I had that the lease said I had the right to be there. But the senior arresting trooper refused to look at the lease, and he simply arrested me, not even telling me to leave, but just arrested me. And I only found out what the charges were when I got to the police station. And then later on in his report, his report differed greatly from my evaluation of what had happened in the house. But he claimed, he brought up my father's case and said, that I was claiming that there was a conspiracy behind my father's disappearance and this and that, and it actually had nothing to do with the matter at hand, which was a tenancy dispute.
But you never pursued any legal recourse for wrongful arrest. It wouldn't have been worth the effort.
Well, of course, I had to go through the criminal justice system. And that's when my eyes were open to the criminal justice system, that essentially you are presumed guilty. And then if you want to prove your innocence, then you go to trial. But most cases never go to trial. They are settled through plea bargains.
So let me get this right. You're one of two daughters. You come from England back to the United States to try to make sense of why your father disappeared and the circumstances thereof. And then over a couple of years, you basically become the bad guy in this scenario.
That's how I started to feel as I began to write complaints.
That's kind of Kafkaesque in a way.
Well, it is, yes. I was thinking that there was, small town politics. I was thinking that it was related to Troop B, and perhaps X knew Y, and it's a lot of small towns in the area. So I therefore pushed very hard to get the case transferred out of Troop B, and that finally happened after my arrest. But in any case, I did not. My arrest case was postponed and postponed and postponed. They call them continuances, and that was so demoralizing. I was really, I really felt very oppressed, very traumatized by these continual postponements. That I switched lawyers finally. The first lawyer wanted me to take a plea bargain. And then the second lawyer was very keen to go to court and thought she could win this case, that I had the right to be there. But then it had already been dragging on for a year, and I was so emotionally drained, sleepless. I was sleepless for the whole year. And then I just took a plea bargain, which was 3 weeks probation, I think that, and they waived they were going to charge me a fee, but then I took the plea bargain. Then I said I changed my mind. I couldn't write the check, and the lawyer said she wants her day in court, but the judge then refused to allow that, and he waived the fee, and considered that I had already satisfied the plea bargain. So, yeah.
In case you're just joining us, my guest is Allison Drew. She's the daughter of Tom Drew, the 91-year-old Salisbury resident who went missing from his home back in July 2007. She's written a book called Searching for My Missing Father and an American Noir. So you've been through a lot. You didn't get any answers about the disappearance of your father. The system turned against you in this really confusing arrest that you finally navigated yourself to. You find yourself after years at the point of emotional duress. How did you come to write the book?
Well, I mean, just before I answered that, the case was given to the missing persons unit finally. And I was overjoyed, but then I was dismayed after finally reading their report. And it took me a year to get their report, but they simply accepted the original investigation as satisfactory, and actually raised the fact that I had been arrested, giving the sense that they wanted to discredit me. Right. So that was also, it was another trauma. There were three things that I wanted to deal with in the book. Firstly, I was very upset by the way my father had been treated in some of the newspaper reports. There was the assumption that because he had dementia, that he necessarily walked away. It was, in a sense, his fault. It's an inevitable result of dementia. But many people with dementia don't wander. certainly at least half of the people in the literature that I've seen do not wander. And my father had never displayed the wandering trait. And wandering in dementia has specific meanings. It means walking either in a zigzag or in a kind of random manner, but not with a logical manner. I'm going from A to Z. And the only the only scent that had been picked up was actually a very logical, track up a walk that my father had taken in the past when he was younger. So stereotypes of dementia I wanted to deal with because I felt that was a cop-out. Then I also wanted to deal with the emotional impact on me. I felt that had to be put out into the public domain because I make the point in the book that there are so many thrillers about missing people, but no one, or very rarely, I certainly have rarely, if ever, found any book that deals with a missing person from the point of view of the person left behind. And I wanted to talk about that and put that into the public domain. And then also I wanted to talk about the police investigation. And I felt that the police, they took a stereotype about dementia as an easy way out. It meant that they had a quick and easy answer. They did not actually have to analyze. They didn't have to go back and assess their own approach. And I felt that it was very much symptomatic of the way the police often operate, that they look at someone and they make a stereotype judgment. They come to a quick judgment so they don't have to think through and analyze. And of course, we have seen, in extreme form through the protests this summer, the Black Lives Matter protests. I mean, my father's case is one tiny example, but there are many examples. And I wanted to try to analyze that process, how they jump to a conclusion and then engage, whether consciously or not. They, I believe they do start to stigmatize the person who's complaining.
So what's your advice then to, shall we say, another survivor of a missing person?
Well, firstly, keep a record of everything. Even if you just take notes, see if you can get phone records. Any documents are important. And then you should understand that you're not the only person going through this. It's
how many missing people? How many people go missing in the United States?
I have it in the book. I forgot to check, but certainly millions. I'd have to check my book.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
So take notes.
Yeah. Yes, take notes. Know
every
that
detail surrounding the circumstances of the moment of disappearance and the hours or days leading up to it.
Yes. Also that the emotional consequences vary from shock, anxiety, lethargy, sleeplessness. They're wide, a wide range of emotional consequences. As well as the pragmatic consequences of losing another human being. And depression, post-traumatic stress syndrome, and so on, prolonged grief disorder. It's not simply a normal bereavement. So I think that those who have missing family members need to be aware of that so that they don't think that they're going crazy, so that what they may be going through emotionally and psychologically is a typical reaction. I think that's important for people. And then I think what I've noticed is that there are many, many small little nonprofits connected to missing people. And I think that we really need a bigger network of that keeps tabs on the nonprofits so that the people who are connected to missing people, whether it's a family member or a very close friend, so that they can make contact with each other and talk to each and share things. And I think then they would have more power politically to put pressure on the police and say, the way you've handled things in the past isn't adequate, and we need to sit down together. I think this can be part of the discussion about police reform that's taking place around the country. We need to sit down, put our heads together, and see how can we improve our investigative skills with regards to missing people.
Right. In the first part of the interview, you talked about your scholarly or your academic background. So certainly in the course of your career, you've done a lot of research and you've done a lot of writing and published papers and so forth. But in terms of writing this book, how emotionally therapeutic was it?
Well, while I was doing it, it was torture. I mean, it was really excruciating. However, now that it's done, I'm extremely happy. So I do believe that there has been a therapeutic consequence, a therapeutic result. I'm much more able to keep the matter in one corner of my brain. Obviously, my father's missing status is going to be there in my head as long as he is missing. I want very much to find him and bury him. More than anything, that's what I want. And but writing the book actually has helped me to cope with putting the disappearance aside and letting me focus on other things, because in a sense, I've said my piece.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's helped me do. Instead of reading other people's point of view, I have put my view about what happened or what the possibilities are. I put that in the public domain.
Looking back at all of it, and you certainly, reading the book, it's clear that you reacted and behaved as dutifully as any child of a parent could, given the circumstances of the disappearance of your father. But either in your reaction to the event when you first arrived on the scene, when you came back to the United States to visit the house from which your father disappeared, or in your conduct of your own research, in your behavior with the state police, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Not that I can think of, because I knew that one should not criticize the police, the state police. I was warned about that, but I had to keep raising the issue because they weren't paying attention. Now, I was very naive when it came to the realtor. Mm-hmm. If I had if I had been able just to focus on that, yeah, I would not have gone back just then. But I think I was overly naive, very mm-hmm, too trusting.
Mm-hmm.
So after all, I would do that differently.
Right. And after everything is said and done, can you share with us a hypothesis of what you think happened to your father?
I think something unexpected happened. I think he may have collapsed and died, for example. There might have been an accident or just a natural death. And I think whoever was there, panicked and removed him. That is personally what I think is the most likely scenario. Mm-hmm. We can never be totally positive, but that's what I think is the most likely.
And did you ever explicitly advance that theory, that hypothesis rather, to the police and say, what do you think? And what reaction did you get?
I tentatively advanced it on a very few occasions that I thought that he may have been driven off, because I have made it clear that I don't think that he is above ground. Mm-hmm. So I did advance a theory, but and in fact they did search the Boy Hill farm, which suggests that they were open to that possibility, which is that's far away. He would have had to have been dumped there. But it is a logical possibility, given that they've done everything possible to search anywhere where he could have walked to, and we haven't found him. So I think it's a very they should have started that considered that at the beginning, I think.
Right. And Allison, what was it like to get this book published? How did you do that? And how can someone get a copy of the book?
Oh, well, you can order it. The publisher is called Black Rose Writing. They're a small independent press based in Texas. You can order it online through them, or you can go to Amazon and you can order it as a paperback or as a Kindle. Okay. So it's very easy. Just go to your Google.
Google on Amazon. Google Black Rose Writing, or Google Allison Drew, Searching for My Missing Father in American Noir. Allison, I want to thank you for joining us. I know it's been quite a journey for you. It's been 13 years. My condolences on the disappearance of your father after all these years. I hope you find peace in finding his remains and giving them a proper burial. And thank you for writing this book for everybody who's lost someone and they don't know their whereabouts.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. It's been very nice to talk to you about this. It's hard to talk about even now, but I've really appreciated the opportunity of talking with you about this.
Thanks for joining us. Again, the program has been Off Script. I'm your host, Dan Dwyer. We've been talking once again with Allison Drew, the book, Searching for My Missing Father in American Noir, available through Black Rose Writing or easily ordered through Amazon. You've been listening to Off Script. In case you like what you hear on this program and on Robin Hood Radio, please go to robinhoodradio.com. Go to the support page and express your appreciation. And I appreciate you listening. Until the next time you join us, mask up, wash your hands often, and by all means, stay well. Thanks for joining us.
Underwriting support for Off Script with Dan Dwyer from Johnny Cake Books in Salisbury, Connecticut, whose collection of rare, collectible, and out-of-print books is housed in a 19th century cottage in one of the most old-fashioned small towns in New England. Off Script with Dan Dwyer is also available via podcast on our on-demand page, robinhoodradio.com. Click on On Demand, and then click on Off Script with Dan Dwyer.